What would be the worst thing to make illegal?
CBD.
Movies.
Smiling.
What is happening?
Man, I was very excited to do this podcast. That answer just went so many different directions. No, not get into that. Well, let's get into it.
Our range of answers was actually
Why is it
wild.
ever like CBD?
Yeah, I mean, like, I'm the first one who answered, so I have no like range of what are we discussing here.
Yeah.
Okay, so your answer, Shamir, is actually illegal in some places to an extent, or
Interesting.
or what's it called, where there's censorship, right?
Yeah.
So that, like, for example, in countries where like Pakistan, China, sometimes there's like no YouTube,
Yeah.
or there's certain movies that are banned.
Right.
And that sucks. And they always have to like do something to like get around that, or
Yeah.
so they can.
I feel like you really love movies. Like that's your favorite. Like that's your favorite thing.
Frost,
I
you
don't
do
know.
too, though.
I do, but Shamir is like, he has like when he goes to the theater, and like it's an
Oh.
experience, you know.
Yeah. For me, like going to the movie theaters, that there's like no other feeling. Like you literally get taken out of this world,
That's true.
and then like there's like memes on TikTok.
You
it's
literally
like,
don't.
you develop a
but-
new personality.
See, the thing is,
Like,
I'm not
people
that
say-
big into movies, but I know that feeling you're talking about. So even though I'm not big into movies, I enjoy going to the movie theater because of that feeling.
Yeah, that feeling, and that feeling is like everything.
Yeah.
But I don't watch like enough movies to be like, oh, movies are my like favorite thing ever. But I feel like I should watch more movies.
There's like this thing that they were saying on TikTok, like when you leave a movie theater and like you think you've like adapted that person's
Yes.
like persona, or like you
Oh.
leave changing,
That's
feeling
exactly
like
what I
a
was trying to
whole
bring up,
new
That-
feeling.
I will literally, like, my brother hates when I do this, but I'll literally start acting like basically someone annoying in the film.
Yeah.
Or like the villain.
Yeah.
And he'll be like, why do you always do this every time we watch something? Like, you obsess over it. But it's so fun.
Yeah.
And like pretending that you're in their shoes. Honestly, sometimes I just live my life thinking that I'm in a movie.
Which one?
No, like I'm being
Like,
recorded.
you're being filmed.
Yeah, like I'm being filmed. Like if I'm walking, or if I'm, you know the whole thing where you look out of
You
a
think
car
you're
window.
a main character, basically.
Well, I am.
All right. But you uphold main character energy on a daily basis.
No, but what I mean by that is, like, if you're you, then of course you think that you're the main character.
Right.
'Cause
no, but also that like feeling of like being recorded, like you live in a movie type thing. That's main character energy.
Thank you.
Yeah.
You're welcome.
It would suck if all that was gone. So
Yeah. I said smiling.
Yeah. I mean, it's Sunnah.
just imagine, like, you smile and then what happens? You get arrested?
Life expectancies would decline.
Oh, that too. Happiness overall.
That's happiness. That's not smiling.
Yeah, but happiness is associated with smiling, or smiling is associated with happiness.
There's tons of times where I'm really happy and I'm not smiling.
You're
Right now,
freaking weird. Are you happy?
Wait, so
I'm so
that
excited.
goes against what you would say? Like, that's the worst
No,
thing?
I would still say if it's illegal, it would suck. That was your thing.
Yeah.
Because I like seeing other people smile. And what I'm saying is that, nowadays it feels like smiling is illegal. Everyone's so unhappy. Everyone's so depressed. You know where they're not depressed? Finland, Iceland,
Do they
all those
not, is it
Scandinavian
not
countries.
illegal to smile?
No, they're just they're ranked the happiest.
They get paid to smile.
Yeah, I was like, wait.
They're incentivized.
No, but like, it just feels like there's always people that are ruining the fun these days.
Yeah.
People, just smile.
Just
Have a
smile.
good time.
And hopefully you're smiling at this episode of Strange Flavors. My name
Yeah.
is Shimmer.
I'm smiling for us, the
I'm
main character.
CBD Amber.
And this is the strangest and greatest podcast in the game. This is brought to you by Alif Theory. And you know what else is brought to you by Alif Theory? This brand new
Ooh.
set
Wow.
that we were here last time. But it's slightly upgraded. Woo!
I mean, it's drastically updated. Let's be real.
Drastically upgraded.
And we still going.
And we're still going. But let me finish the intro and then we'll get to thanking everybody that
Okay.
was part of this process. But
Perfect.
yes, if you'd like to email us or send us your music, strangeflavorspodcast@gmail.com. If you enjoy this podcast, please be sure to share it with all your friends. You can listen to it anywhere, Spotify, Apple Podcast, literally anywhere. And you do definitely want to tune in to the visual aspect of this because We've got crazy ass cameras this episode.
And I really appreciate that people actually went and commented on the YouTube channel and stuff. Like, it was fun reading those comments.
I actually watched that episode like 4 times, skipping around, just admiring how beautiful it was
Wow.
and how good of a job Isan made that episode. I
Tech
was like,
was
Shout out
a-
Isan.
shout out Isan. He's producing this episode, and a lot of technical difficulties today that we may or may not talk about.
He has
but
the official title of Tech Wizard.
yeah, tech wizard that Amber has crowned Isan.
You're a wizard.
How does it
Harry.
feel with that name?
He doesn't.
He's
he doesn't-
speechless.
He doesn't have his mic.
He doesn't have a mic, but
We're gonna
He
get
can
him
yell.
mic.
I can yell. I don't know how to respond to that.
he's speechless.
He's speechless.
I'll take the title, I guess.
You take the title, I guess. Like I said, speechless. But yes, watch this on YouTube. Subscribe. Leave a comment. Like everything you can do on this YouTube video. And if you'd like to make this set even better than it already has, you can be part of Strange Flavors Town. Strange Flavors Town includes our wonderful, amazing participants community. And their names are Bobber's Bagels, Cassie's Cupcakes, Erha's Ices, Fariha's Falafels, Aslam's Apples. And yeah, and if you'd like to be a part of that,
Do you say Air His
There's-
Apples?
did I say Erha's Apples?
It's Aslam's apples, bro.
Aslam's Apples, Erha's Ices.
I was like, did they have a miscommunication where they traded chops?
Maybe they did.
Aslam
Erha's
doesn't want to
Apples,
sell apples anymore.
Aslam's Ices.
And
Whoa. No, that doesn't
I don't
hit.
like that
Aslam's
crossover.
assies.
Aslam's Ices. And yes, you could also help this podcast by Patreon. We do have a link down below, and we have amazing merch that we're all kind of wearing.
Sort of.
Strangeflavors.store.
Yes.
Copy your amazing merch. A lot of you have already bought merch, but we'd like to give a huge shout out and thank you to you guys because after all the merch sales, after all the monthly donations of Strange Flavors Town and the Patreon, we have made this set even more amazing.
Yeah, lots of new equipment, and we have lots of plans to keep going. As far as
Oh, I
increasing
also
the
did buy a
production.
Gucci shirt with the Patreon money too.
Where is it at?
What the hell?
'Cause
I'm
Why
just
did you
kidding.
not tell
We'd
us?
like to see. No, that's fine. Just wear it in every episode. You better go out of your own money now.
No, but no, we want to make sure that all the money that's going into this is like, funding this better production, better content, and we make this set better for you guys. And we're not spending it on Gucci shirts.
Facts.
So
I mean, I'm down for
Gucci
Shamir being in a Gucci shirt.
You don't even care about what I literally think you get dressed in the dark.
Amber,
Except for today.
I'm-
Except for today.
Amber,
because
I'm
you're
wearing the
a string-
flyest merch in the game.
Except for that. Except for today, you consciously chose your outfit, and it's better than most of them.
Okay, well, you get dressed in a funhouse mirror, so
And it's cute and fun.
I'd
and
rather
fresh.
dress in the dark because I could pick out anything from the closet, and what matters, not what I'm wearing, what I'm saying,
it's the person
To
who's
you.
wearing
what
it.
I'm doing.
To you.
No, to anybody. Amber, remember the smiles? That's what we're encouraging. We're not going to judge other people
Why
for
don't you
what they
smile
wear,
now? Because right now
what they
you're
don't wear.
frowning.
Give us a smile.
Let's put a smile on that.
I really don't like how you have a scissors.
Can you give us
There
like
were
a
scissors
smile?
here, so I just.
I've never seen Frost
Yeah.
like try to smile. It's like either a genuine smile or whatever,
Or, like,
but like
forced.
forced smile. Can you give us like a forced smile, like a nice
like a
forced
hee
smile?
hee.
Oh my
That doesn't.
gosh,
No. Yeah, maybe don't do that.
it doesn't look good.
Oh, okay, that was
It
fine.
doesn't look good.
It doesn't look good.
You know, like that TikTok where the guy's like, this was so funny. He goes, we are not Muslims. Like Allahu Akbar, yes. We're like Allahu Akbar, yes.
What?
He's like, we're not like Allahu Akbar, boom. We're like Allahu Akbar, yes.
I thought you were saying Allahu Akbar, boom. Like,
No,
I know. I just thought that's where it was going.
ruin the vibe.
So sorry.
Okay, I wanted to ask you guys something.
Okay.
Is there anything that in your life that you just felt like I've never been this close to death before? Has there ever been a time where you're just like, I can't believe I almost died, and then later that day you're just like, I could have not been alive right now?
Yeah.
There was a in New York. What's the most popular bridge that you can like walk and there's like bicycles
The
going
Brooklyn
through?
Bridge?
I don't know if it's a Brooklyn Bridge. Maybe it's a Brooklyn Bridge. But there's like a path where you walk and there's a path where there's bikers coming from like the
Yeah.
opposite end. And one time my friends were behind me and there's so many people. And so then I slightly go into the bike lane and then look at my friend behind me. And then I turn around and this bike literally like 2 centimeters right in front of my face just passes by me.
You
Like,
thought you were gonna die from that? A bike?
Legit, he was going so fast.
But
Like,
who dies from a
Like
bike
severe
running
injury,
into you?
maybe, but death.
I thought I was gonna die. But how are you gonna think in 2 seconds? Like, oh, I'm not gonna die from this. All right, let me react.
No, but like later that day, were you like, I can't believe I almost died?
Oh no, but like at that moment, I thought I was gonna die. Right?
I guess. I would have thought that this bike is going to like topple over me and the biker's gonna get pissed.
You can't think like that. In
You know,
0.2
no, because
seconds.
you know on that bridge, the biker's always like, move, bike.
This
ding,
dude didn't
ding,
even
ding.
say anything. Like he literally just like almost.
Bro, there was a guy on
me.
that same bridge that this guy decided to propose to his girl, and as soon as he got down, there was a biker coming, and he decked him. And the biker
groom?
yeah, the biker like wiped out. No, the photographer. It was the
Yeah.
photographer and the biker.
Oh,
And the
Oh my
photographer
God.
like hit him by accident or whatever. They were like recording and they were making a video, so they kept going. And then the biker was like not cool with it.
well,
But why do that
I
in the
don't
middle of
understand
like places like that where I don't know.
Maybe
I guess
that's like
it's
maybe
romantic.
that's like where they first met or something.
I don't know.
the funny thing is like New Yorkers just don't care. They're like, I need to get
Yeah.
from point A to point B. I don't care what you're doing.
Yeah.
You were in my way.
Yeah, that's so
Like
true.
go get married, go propose somewhere else.
Like that's cute over there, but
Not
like,
in
keep
my
it over
bike
there.
lane.
Yeah.
People are serious about bike lanes.
Yeah, that's true.
What was yours? You have one?
I do have one. When I was a teenager, I almost thought I died from a broken heart. No, I'm just kidding.
A broken heart.
No, but for real. I was in the car with one of my homegirls. She just got her license, and my parents were like skeptical about me going, and we were going to a pool party. So I was just in the car with her, and she was like very like spacey headed, like very, didn't know how to focus for anything.
2 Ambers in the car.
Yeah, basically, but like imagine me, but like way worse. So it was a pool party. I put a swimsuit on and I put a shirt on because us brown girls know all about that life. You got to put clothes on top of a swimsuit. And as soon as I finished that, I went to go reach over for the seatbelt, like with my hand. And as I did that, my friend looked over at my hand to see what I was doing. Don't know why she would do that while she's driving. Right in front of us, a car was trying to take a left turn. And she, like, obviously you have to stop or go around it. She just slammed straight into the back of it. And we ran into oncoming lane traffic to the other side of the road, over a, curb, into a tree. And then because I never had the seatbelt on, my hand flew back and my face flew into the windshield and my face made an imprint in the broken glass. So the glass broke in the shape of my face.
Is this Final Destination?
I'm being so serious. And
That's
so
kind of artistic.
it was insane. So then I pushed back and I really didn't understand what happened. And I just see her look over at me freaking out. And
So you actually almost.
No, I'm being so serious. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so she looked over at me and I didn't realize till her reaction that something was wrong because she looked at my face and screamed like in horror.
Was it like all bloody and stuff?
I guess. So all I know is I just try to leave out the car and I start walking till I start falling and I just see a man running towards me, rips off his shirt. It's like this like older white man ripped off his shirt and just like put it on my face to
Wait,
stop
a random
the blood.
guy?
A random guy pulled over on the
Dang.
side of the road.
What a hero.
Shout out.
He ripped his shirt off and just started like putting his shirt into my face to like stop the blood from coming out. And so this like other white lady pulled over. They were both holding me till the ambulance came. They put me in the ambulance. I left, whatever. A few months later, they were doing a driver's ed course in my county. And they used my face from the glass, the picture of my car, in the driver's ed, like...
Oh, so
Scare-
you were an example of like why you should wear a
why
seatbelt.
you should wear your seatbelt,
Wow.
right? And so I, my entire eyebrow in the upper quadrant, right quadrant of my face, I don't know how else to describe it, I didn't have an eyebrow for a few months. My whole face was messed up or whatever. And for the whole 30 days, I was ripping glass out of my skin that they couldn't take out at the hospital because it was like deep into my skin. So as time went on, for like a whole month, I'd be ripping glass out of my skin. And then, yeah, there's a lot of stories that go with that accident, but
That's
yeah.
not as scary as mine. No, I'm kidding.
No, that right
insane.
there is scary. Yours is scary, but mine is literally the scariest.
Okay,
What is
this
it?
is going to be the least scariest. Let's
No,
go.
literally.
Yeah, like
okay.
a bad piece of chocolate or
Right.
something.
You guys are gonna feel bad afterwards because
Okay.
I'm being serious. This is why I even brought this up.
He's literally not being
No,
serious.
he's being
In-
serious. I think he's-
I'm being serious.
You're not.
In middle school, Isan, you guys
Why
are gonna
is he
feel
lying,
bad
bro?
after I say this.
Okay.
In middle school, this literally, I'm not even making this up. This happened to me. You know those mozzarella sticks? Like that. Hold on. I didn't even.
Did you choke
This is
on the
not
cheese?
funny. This is not funny.
Bro, you just compared cheese to my face being broken.
I'm talking about a traumatic experience, and you guys are so
Mozzarella sticks.
making
Okay,
fun of me.
Okay, go ahead.
Go ahead. Sorry.
They're really hot when they come out, right? And I'm sitting there, okay, my friend is talking to me, and I start eating one. They smack. Like the ones in middle school, for some reason, never had any like that in my life outside. No restaurant could ever do anything like that. Marinara sauce is hot, mozzarella sticks hot, cheese. I'm eating one, right? I eat half. You know how it's really stringy?
Yeah.
I swallow it, and it's so stringy and so hot. Half of the mozzarella stick is in my
Yeah.
stomach.
Yeah.
No, in my like throat.
Yeah.
And the rest
Is in your hand.
In my hand. I'm pulling it out, and it's not coming out. It just keeps getting longer, and I'm like,
Oh snap!
You know, in early childhood education classes, and I told you guys this before.
Amber. And I'm eating the mozzarella stick, and I'm telling my friend to grab the mozzarella stick. He's talking to me still, telling his lame story, whatever it was about, probably like dumb bionicles or something. And he's just like, bro, just like cut it. And I'm like, just pulling and pulling on it.
This sounds like a fire mozzarella stick, to be honest.
It smacked.
This
was so
this
good.
This is a Final Destination movie, like middle school edition.
It's a mozzarella stick.
but then the rest of them, I like broke them up myself by hand, and then just like chewed on that piece and swallowed it. Because if you do the whole thing where you eat half of it and pull it, it looks all cool. It sounds like a fun idea until you swallow half of it, and then the other half is stuck in your body.
Wait,
and
so
the other half
how'd
is
you
out.
save it? How'd you save yourself?
just
Well,
keep
eventually
swallowing.
I just like tried to mush the cheese off, like the bin.
Okay.
Because if I pulled it, it just kept getting longer.
Yeah.
This is the quality of the cheese that they're using in middle school.
Yeah.
It's really good
Wait, so
stuff.
how long was that moment? Like
It felt
15
like
seconds.
at least 15 years. but
and you're choking the whole time, like.
it was probably one, to be honest. Which is
probably
still
wasn't
a
a
long
whole
time.
minute.
And then that night, I laid in my bed and I thought about how I almost died. And I wasn't going to live past that day because of a mozzarella stick.
Do you still love mozzarella sticks?
Yeah, they're amazing, but
Mozzarella
not
sticks.
the ones. That mozzarella stick,
Oh my god.
that was different.
So
it
like,
was good.
So like whenever you go to like Denny's or wherever and you like order mozzarella sticks.
I don't go to Denny's, first of all.
Okay,
Don't even
sorry.
associate me
Okay,
with Denny's.
sorry. Only talk about
Too good
Waffle
for
House.
Denny's.
Only Waffle House around for
All right.
us.
You're Denny Tanner.
You get. Do they have mozzarella sticks in Waffle House?
No.
Okay.
Why'd you say
Why'd you
no?
say it like
it
that?
was like impossible for them to have.
Because Denny's thinks that like you can just throw everything in the world on a menu and
That's true.
it's gonna work.
That's true.
Waffle House
I'll agree with
specializes
In waffles.
hash browns, waffles, not even pancakes. Same with IHOP. Who does IHOP think
Honestly,
they are?
waffles are better than pancakes anyway.
Well, that's obvious. If you think otherwise, you deserve to choke on a mozzarella stick.
Okay, I was trying to tell you that mozzarella sticks are the #1 choke hazard food for children.
Oh.
Where were you?
No, so when I was
Where were
taking
you?
out early childhood education classes, we actually learned that if we gave mozzarella sticks to children or whatever, you had to chop them up and make sure they were cold because when they're warm, they can, shapeshift. But when they go in your throat is
Shapeshift.
yeah. But when they
If
go
I heard this, I would have.
well, I mean, yeah,
Probably
that's the
still
whole
eating
idea of them being stringy, right? But when they go inside your throat is cool, so they take shape of your throat and will close it.
Bruh, why are they
That's-
feeding these to kids?
They shouldn't be.
They should be.
No, they should not.
I'm still very satisfied with my
traumatized.
experience. Well,
You literally said it was worse than both of our experience of actually dying.
but
Both of ours could have ended up in a
No, that's probably scary
hospital.
because A, you're being made fun of at the time. B, like you actually think you're gonna die. C, you're dying from like mozzarella stick. Like imagine that.
You're not
And
dying.
No,
you
no,
You
literally
feel like you're dying.
but it's a thrill, to be honest.
Ross, how
I'm
did you?
I'm very grateful for the experience. I've learned a lot from it, and the experience itself.
How dare you?
I feel like I have, what's it called? Stockholm syndrome
What?
from the mozzarella stick. You know when you like
Hold on.
when you that's when you think that you like your abuser. And
Gross.
the mozzarella stick, it abused me, but honestly, I would let it abuse me again.
Please tell me we have other topics because I really need to move on from these mozzarella sticks.
Shout out
And
to the Mozz.
And I also need to move on from the audacity that you have today.
Shout out to the sheesh, the mozzarella sticks.
Oh my God.
One time for the Mozz. Sheesh. Okay. This list was everywhere for some reason, and people were talking about this list of top 10 jobs that kids want. Okay. It was brought to attention by this tweet by Z Bulliger. Okay, cool name. He said, "How depressing. Our society has failed to provide ambitious role models to our children." And the list, the number one, the jobs on here that kids want to be: YouTuber. Number 2, blogger/vlogger. 3, musician/singer. 4, actor. 5, filmmaker. And then after that, we get into doctor, nurse, TV presenter, athlete, teacher, writer, lawyer. 34% of kids, it looks like, want to be YouTubers.
What is this age group? Because
So yeah, people are like, what's the source? What's the sample
because
size?
no 2-year-old is saying they want to be a filmmaker.
But YouTuber probably.
Yeah, but for sure. But like, what's the age range on this? Is it like 7-year-olds who spend 60% of their day watching YouTube?
Yeah.
Or is it like a 3-year-old who's playing with like blocks and stuff and like may casually?
Well,
you know-
listen, you're saying 2-year-old, no 2-year-old is saying that, but my thing is,
No 2-year-old saying filmmaker.
I know, but they could be, and it's fine because I remember even when we were in middle school and before that, kids are just saying random things. I think I said astronaut, fireman,
But, like,
police
but
officer.
why is that, right?
In,
So
in,
why
in
does
society, like, those are deemed drilled into our heads like those are the best things to be.
So you would think that. But kids have an even smaller world than that. Kids are in school and based off of home are only taught about certain things, right? So they know what doctors are, they know what lawyers are, whatever. Back when we were kids, our exposure to jobs or career days was, oh, okay, do you want to be an astronaut, a police officer, yada, yada. They weren't, giving us a world of options. They gave us very stereotypical job role titles. And then we were basing it off of that. Our answers were only ever astronaut, race car driver.
No, but like
whatever.
there was girls in my class that would be like, I want to be a princess, and then the teacher
yeah.
would be like, grip.
Right, but that's what I'm saying is like then it's either what you learned in school or what you know at home, and they're either watching what they know on TV. So right now these kids have, at school, what are they, they're learning either a lawyer, doctor, whatever. But then whatever they're saying on the apps that they're
But
on.
why are people so upset about this? Like this dude's whole tweet, how depressing our society has failed to provide ambitious role models to our children. Excuse me?
Yeah.
AKA he wants to brainwash kids.
Yeah, like what do you want them to say?
Yeah.
By the way, I did end up finding the list or a list that was done on a study. This is on CNBC, and it says that toy production firm Lego surveyed 3,000 children between the ages of 8 and 12 from the US, the UK, and China, as well as 326 parents who had children aged between 5 and 12. So according to their list, it said that 11% of them wanted to be a YouTuber. So it's a very similar list where a majority of them want to be something that they're seeing, consuming, like you're saying. But it's weird because when we were, this is only like not even that long ago, I'd say between 5 and 10 years ago, people were like, oh, we need more encouragement of creative fields and arts, and like we don't need to all, or maybe that's in our community.
I think that's, yeah. And maybe our age range too.
Yeah. But it was seen as like we have enough of doctors, lawyers, all
Right.
these like fields that are seen as really noble, and we need to encourage people to be in other fields such as these, and those fields should be respected and paid better. But now the conversation, especially on these social media apps, it's weird to hear people our age be like, oh, this is like society is doomed, because there's a lot of people that are reacting
Yeah.
negatively to this.
Yeah.
But I don't know. It's just like it's a mixed sort of thing because there are a lot of people that abuse these roles, and we're not going to get into it, but like we see what's happening with David Dobrik, and he's getting canceled currently by a lot of people because him and his group were alleged of doing certain things. And this has happened to a lot of people that kids looked up to, including Logan Paul, who had that whole Suicide Forest scandal, and a lot of these YouTubers and social influencers that get caught up in these scandals. We don't hear of the same thing from, I guess, these other titles, but they're not in the public eye as much.
Yeah, they don't have that platform.
We hear it from politicians when they're finally caught.
Yeah.
Or like in a courtroom with court documents. Like if you're having like malpractice as a YouTuber, that's, you know, that's what I'm saying. It's like that's like doing something wrong that, you know, your punishment is cancel culture.
Yeah.
And then if you do something wrong as a doctor, your punishment is the law.
Yeah.
So it's like the punishments vary, I guess.
I think if ultimately you're taught good values and to respect yourself and other people, then it's fine.
Yeah.
You know, like as long as you're doing something where you're doing it in a appropriate, respectable way, then you should let your kids explore these things.
Also, kids have like a huge imagination. Like, you know, like Amber was saying earlier, like we only see astronaut, let's go to space and fly. They're not like, oh, we have to fix this spaceship and so we can go up and become an astronomist and study all these things. We're like, oh, we want to fly up there.
We want to fly.
We want to
exactly.
fly. Like,
it's simplified.
Yeah, like fire trucks. Oh, we have to do this. And it's just like, oh, we take down the fire, whatever.
Doctor, I want to help people, not actually like go in and like figure out like,
cutting out parts and body
whatever.
parts and, you know, gruesome stuff like that. With YouTuber, it's very easy to see like, oh yeah, like I want to make videos and stuff, and that's actually kind of what they're doing.
Kids are innocent, man.
Yeah.
You can't be like getting mad at what they say when all of their things are just aspirational.
Well, you should also see where the kid's head is. If they are craving attention and they want to be a YouTuber, then don't get mad when they finally start an OnlyFans or something and they continue to garner all this attention and it helps them out and then ultimately makes them feel bad about themselves when they can't get likes or something, and versus somebody who wants to be a filmmaker and tell certain stories. You know, it's a very different thing.
Yeah.
So why is it that they want to be a YouTuber? You know, you try to understand their
Everybody
intentions
needs
and
therapy.
raise them right. But we will be talking to somebody who succeeded in this field today, which is our stranger. And she is a filmmaker who has captured some amazing stories that we'll get into, and has figured out a way to do it in the most authentic way to herself and communities that she looks up to or wants to learn more about. So everybody, please welcome our stranger, Khaula Malik. Welcome to Strange Flavors. Welcome to our show. Thanks for being here.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me.
Thanks for putting up with us, honestly.
Yeah.
We have a whole new setup and everything going on, so
It's okay, you know, just don't make this mistake for the next guest.
Oh,
Actually, you're the
snap.
first guest to get to experience this.
Well, she's not experiencing
Exactly.
it.
So it's
She's still on
you
Zoom.
know,
That's
it's a
true.
trial.
That's true. But I don't know. She'll be the first one with the episode.
Yeah.
That is nice.
I was actually so excited when Hadia told us about you because of the topics of your films. There's a lot of filmmakers out there who I guess more and more, it's becoming easier to take on the creative fields because we have access to many other things. But how long have you been doing this for?
Yeah, it's a hard question to answer because full time I've probably been doing it about 3-4 years, but on and off have been working in the industry since like 2011.
Okay. So most recently, you've been working on this project called The Noble Half. And I think that's what we really want to dive into here. But from just, you know, a quick look at it, I mean, I saw the trailer and it already looks really, I guess, very personal. which I've thought about this subject before, but quickly tell us kind of overall what it's about.
Yeah, it's interesting you bring this up because I've actually been thinking about the project during COVID a lot. I haven't been able to travel to Pakistan and film, but it's become very near and dear to my heart. It's a film that is a documentary actually that is, following a group of trans women, khwaja-sera in Pakistan, specifically in Rawalpindi. And the main women in the film were running this cafe at an arts university outside Islamabad. That's how I met them. And we became friends and started filming. And now it's been, many years. It's been like almost 5 years since I met them and going back and forth and filming. But, it's meant to be a feature. Let's see. This process can take a long time. And so I think for me and for the women in the film, we're just thinking about like, can this be something that's maybe shorter to get it out into the world? Given how COVID put a halt on just so many things and so many projects. So I just want to, we raised some money on Kickstarter and I want to make sure that we do the project justice. And I am starting to just think about like what that looks like in the long term and how can we do that in a way that isn't something that's drags on for so long. And if it does, like then being really thoughtful about the process.
What got you into like pursuing this project?
This is a community in Pakistan that you hear a lot about. When I was young and I would go and visit Pakistan like every summer, it was a community that my grandparents would talk about. We had, family who had khwaja-seras that worked in their home or like would come to visit. So there was a lot of exposure. And I think for me as a child growing up in America and sort of not totally identifying as like a girly girl, I was definitely a huge tomboy. What I found really interesting was that there was a space in Pakistani society for a community that wasn't living in this binary. And I thought that was really special and interesting. And I think it's really been this process of diving into what that means, but also really looking back at our own cultural heritage and seeing how there is space for queerness and, gender nonconforming people in our community, in our communities that has sort of been erased because of colonialization and stuff like that.
That's a really interesting point because I read this on your Kickstarter too, which is not something that I realized, but you were saying that before British people came in, there wasn't as much of this separation or, I guess, harassment that occurs today. What is that sort of like brief history of how we used to, I guess, include these people or, how they were included within our society versus what ended up happening after colonization?
Mm-hmm. So I'm not a historian, so I don't think I can be, I'm not going to be super informed, but I know from just the work that I've done and research and things like that, that the British really operated in this binary. So when they came, they just, anything that was like threatening to the heteronormative ideals, they just had to like oppress and move to the fringe of society. And this community was one of those things. Before that, this community was, they were advisors to the Mughal emperors. They were protectors of the harem. So they had a lot of, there were spaces of dignity for them to exist in. And now like that doesn't necessarily exist anymore. And I think a lot of it is our culture is still trying to reckon with like, what does our post-colonial identity look like? What does Pakistani identity look like? I think it's very much, what's the word? looking for? Tainted. Yeah, it's very much tainted by all this noise of like, are we Muslim? Are we like, what do we want to embody as a Pakistani? I think the national identity is like really confused. And even more so for like the diaspora, for like people like us. But that's kind of what I would say. I think there's always been space for this type of community within like not only cultural, but like spiritual heritage. If you look back at like the Hindu epics, this community was blessed. And so I don't know if you guys are familiar, but I just remember going to Pakistan and always hearing like, "Bad dua nahi leni chahiye." You shouldn't be mean to these people because they have a relationship that's like closer to God. And that's kind of fascinating as well. And so like, what's the lineage of that? Like, what does that mean? I think there's all these interesting things that we have in our culture that that have been erased. I think that's like the easiest way to say it. Well, things have been erased that we don't talk about, and that's just unfortunate.
You were talking about how you heard about them with your grandparents and other people. I don't know about you, but like me, so I grew up there briefly in Pakistan. Mm-hmm. And anytime I go back, the conversation is always kind of like how you're explaining these, I don't know if you want to call them rumors or what, but I never know what the truth is. But my knowledge of this community was, yes, one, if you see them dancing in the streets or inviting them to your wedding and you don't pay them, then they do badwa, which is bad prayer, basically, or evil eye, or however people kind of recognize that. There's that one. What was the other one? I wrote some down because there's so many different
like myths.
Oh, holding kids for ransom. I don't know if you've heard of that one, but kidnapping kids.
Mm-hmm. And then forcing them to like grow up that way.
That
was one
there's
of the
so
ones
many,
that I
right?
heard. Yeah.
Have you heard all of these? Did you have that in the back of your mind when you're making this film, or like did you explore or try to find out where this stuff comes from at all?
No, because I think what's important is, the other thing I want to mention is I think if you guys have these questions, it would behoove you to invite someone from this community onto your podcast to talk about it, right? Because I'm just a filmmaker. I'm not a member of this community. They've been gracious enough to let me into their lives. And, we've built this relationship and a friendship, but it doesn't feel right for me to speak for the community. I can speak about the work, but I think what I will say is, as a filmmaker, it's important to me, one, to recognize the privilege and power that I have in being able to take a camera and document someone's life. And then also asking myself, what does it mean to create a piece of work that feels collaborative? And that's a co-creation with the people who are being filmed and myself. And what does a project like that look like? And I think that's kind of the phase I'm in now with this film, is like, how can we make something that is not just this documentation, that's not just answering questions for audiences that don't belong to this community? Because I think that's kind of fucked up. Because then the film just becomes an avenue to answer questions, as opposed to an avenue for there to be something kind of magical happening on screen. That's this collaboration where people can just be themselves, and there isn't a burden to have to explain something. Sure. But what you see on screen is telling you something about who they are, because ultimately that's what matters. And of course, there might be instances or moments that you see on screen that reflect on these things of like, what does it mean to be someone like me in this society?
Right.
And what's my day-to-day struggle related to that? But I'm hesitant to create something that is just addressing certain preconceived notions about the community, if that makes sense.
For sure. I think that's a brilliant answer, one, because it makes sense. Due to our ignorance of it, we've seen a trailer, right? So we'd have to watch the film to really understand, because like this is what we were grown up being told. And anybody that I've spoken to about this, I'm just like, the difference between the way that trans people are treated in the West versus what I grew up seeing anyways is like, wait, isn't this kind of the same thing? Why is it that there are these preconceived notions or these, tales that happen with this community? And comparing, the Western sort of society with back home, it's interesting that there was actually Supreme Court rulings which kind of tried to protect this community, which is, I think, something that would surprise Westerners. Do you know
Yeah.
how that's translated over there? Does it actually do anything, or what's kind of like the follow-up?
Yeah, I think there's, as with any country where laws are passed, it's like, it doesn't really matter if a law is passed. It really matters how it's enacted and what that means on a day-to-day for people and how it affects them on a day-to-day. So like, you can pass a law that's like, oh, there's going to be no discrimination against the khwaja-sera community in Pakistan. It's like, okay, great. You just wrote that on a piece of paper. Like, what does that mean for that community on a day-to-day basis? Like, it's about changing people's perception. It's about, it's the same thing that's going on in our country, right? You have the Asian American hate that's happening, just hate against anybody who's not white. And you can have jobs say like equal opportunity employment is important and we're not going to discriminate. It's like, that's just, again, writing on paper, it doesn't, if someone has that hate in their heart, they're gonna just not care what the paper says. Mm-hmm. But there's also no way to prove that they have the hate in their heart.
It still seems progressive in some way, meaning like,
what?
I'm saying it still seems progressive in some way, which, for example, I think I saw this on the news or something where for certain forms, there was actually a section that they could fill out as being trans. And again, I hear what you're saying about like, what does the paper do or whatever, but those are some of the things that people here I've heard asking for.
Yeah. And so, it like normalizes it more, I think.
Well, does it though?
Yeah. Yeah. No, I mean, I think it is super progressive in so many ways. And I think, but I think there's still issues. Of course, Pakistan and a lot of other countries are doing these things that like on a broad level that are like, this community is not going to be discriminated against, all this stuff. And you have a right to have a passport and all these things, which is huge. It's just a matter of what does a rollout look like? How is it impacting like the average person day to day? Is it changing their minds? Is it changing their perceptions?
It's like normalizing.
Maybe not. But it's it's like these are the first steps that need to be taken, and it's great that that's happening.
And
that has happened.
I guess the solution to that is having things like arts, because that's what touches emotions. That's what you're doing, right? You're creating a film. Mm-hmm. But I'm wondering, does your film work towards like Western audiences, or will Pakistanis actually watch this?
I mean, the goal is to have Pakistanis watch it. The goal is to have community engagement, because otherwise, why the fuck am I making a movie? Right. To me, that is the most important thing. Like, how do you get this film in front of people who are going to be impacted by this in their day to day? Yeah, a global audience is great, an American audience is great, but this is not a film for like the white gaze.
Well, I guess the sort of narrative we hear sometimes towards people that are critical of those who make films in a foreign country is that, oh, this man or woman or whatever made this film, won all of these awards, and how did it impact people that were filmed? You get what I'm saying? So I guess that's where that kind of comes from.
Yeah. No, I think that makes a lot of sense. I want to get some clarity on your question though.
Oh no, I was just
Well,
making a.
Oh,
I'm not trying
a
to
point.
like interrogate you. I just like I've heard that criticism before. So
Of course, yeah. I mean, listen, no one is going to like everything. Not everyone is not going to like what you make. That's part of what you sign up for. You know, there's films that I've made. There's a film I made about my parents during COVID, where they think there's a UFO outside their window. It's a documentary. They actually thought that was happening.
oh my god.
And they, you know, not everyone's going to get it. Not everyone's going to like it. And that's fine. It like doesn't really matter. What matters is that like the people who it does resonate with, who are like, oh, wow, I see my parents in this, or I see like, I get what you're trying to do here. And like, I feel seen, because I think, you know, for our community, how many filmmakers are there? How many creatives are there? There's like, thankfully, a lot of, I think, amazing, you know, younger generation kids who are doing this. And like, in like 10, 15 years, there's going to be more of us. And like, that's what's important. And everyone's going to have a different story to tell. Everyone is allowed to tell the stories that they want to tell. And I think it's wrong to put the burden on like one person from a community to carry the weight of like full representation, because that's a lot of pressure. When, you know, we're all fucking Desi, we already have so much pressure. You know, that's like one more weight that someone has to carry. That's not fair. It's so hard to make films. To even finish a film is like an accomplishment in and of itself that I think as filmmakers we should be proud of, because like I said, it's super hard to just even finish a project. And like that should be something that is valued.
Yeah. Well, you're making a sacrifice. All of us, we talk about this all the time. We've had other people we talk to where we're like celebrating, okay, finally we have more filmmakers, we have more people. And, you know, from seeing the trailers of your films, it was like, this seems so genuine. It seems so like telling of individual stories rather than like, oh, I'm this great filmmaker or whatever. But it sucks that sometimes like these people, whenever we see a show and we like it, and then we go online, everyone's like, oh, like this doesn't represent us. And well, and they get torn apart because we have such little representation that anybody who's doing it is under a microscope. So you are making a sacrifice for a lot of people. And if you get that criticism, it's going to be because you were one of the first to do it and you know, like take that risk and be brave about it. So I applaud you for doing it.
Absolutely.
Well, thank you. Yeah, no, it's, you know, there's many more like me that are doing this, that have come before and are coming after. That it's a tough field, but I think it's really rewarding when you do the stuff that really means something to you. And if any of you guys, anybody who's out there hearing this, I think that's just something really important to think about, that it's about your journey too as an artist, and really doing the things that you care about. There's always going to be projects that you have to do for money that you're like, oh God, I don't want to do this, and this is stupid, and I don't care about this. But, you know, as long as you have your other stuff that like you do care about and you just continue working on that, I think it's worth it.
Yeah. Okay, let's talk about the film and the actual stories for a minute here, and whatever you're able to give us. So your film follows 3 lead stories of Bubbly, Isha, and Sharmili. Was it? How did you pick those 3? Was there a selection of people you went through, or did you gravitate towards them for another reason?
I had done like an initial research trip, and Bubbly and Sharmili were running the cafe. So that was like just immediate where I was like, okay, I
What
think
was the
this
deal with the
is
cafe? It
this.
shut down and they were all working there?
It shut down. There was like the administration changed at the university. And unfortunately, a casualty of that was like Bubbly and everybody being let go and them giving the contract to someone else.
And why
So
were they all working at this cafeteria?
because it was an initiative that Bubbly had started in partnership with the principal of that university. I think several years prior, like a year or two before, and it was gonna, employ trans women.
Wow. And Bubbly,
Yeah.
you keep mentioning her, is a politician or something?
She's not a politician. She's a badass. Bubbly is a trans activist in her community. She's incredible. I mean, she's just has sacrificed so much for her community and really advocates for them and is definitely a leader for her community. So I think she's doing amazing work for everybody.
And then, so you have like her who's like really leading a lot of efforts, but then you have two who are like one who is a little bit more laid back and lives I guess a different socioeconomical class than the others. And so how do you decide that, okay, for my film, I'm going to have these three different sides of this story?
I think that's a question that's really hard to answer because that's just how it happened. That's just how it's happened. And like I've said before, we're still, if it was a finished film, I could talk about it more, but because it's not finished, I'm hesitant to talk too much about it.
Are these like
because
you found a lot of people and you boiled it down to three, or these people's stories stuck out to you in some type of way? Or were these the people you had access to?
they were the people who I connected with the most. I met a couple other people as well. It wasn't like a casting call or anything. It was just this natural connection that happened. Where I met them at the cafe, and I was like, okay, I think this, it could be something. There's something here, and let's see what that looks like. And so that's how the process began.
What's the thing that you learned most? Being a part of this whole thing, being a part of the community, being there, hands-on, and interacting with everybody.
There's so much joy and so much generosity and magic. These women are amazing. They're incredibly resilient. They're super funny, and I think that's what we forget. We put people in these boxes and we think they should be a certain way, and you just you lose track of the humanity of people. And I think I feel like just whether this film is done or not, it's just being able to have the opportunity to get to know them and to be able to spend time with them is not going to be forgotten.
Are you ever like afraid of finishing a film because you like enjoy the process of like meeting these people and all that stuff, and you might have to like move on to the next project or something?
I don't know if I would be. I'm afraid of not finishing a film, right? Like I want to finish this film, but I don't have control over when it's going to be finished or not, because films aren't free. So they take time to make, they take money, and they take all these things. And so I think all I can do is just be patient with the process. And the other thing is, as you film, especially with documentaries, like the film changes you. I think if you go into a film or a project being like, oh, I'm going to change X, Y, and Z, like maybe that's not the best approach. because I think it's really about yourself and the journey, and like how the journey is going to change you. And maybe it's going to change other things, but you just don't have control over those things. And so I think the other thing too is, in the process, you realize how much you've changed. So like the initial intention I had for the film has totally shifted, and it's become something else. And I think you have to be okay with that. You can't be too precious about what your vision is going to be and what you imagine, because then you kind of shut yourself off from surprise, because something can come up and you can be like, oh, wow, this is turning into something completely different. And I was not thinking it would. I mean, that moment, that like feeling has happened to me like so many times on this film. And I think finishing a project, when you're done, there's probably a grief process that happens.
How do you know
You're
when
like,
you're
oh my-
done? Because I'm assuming that when you go into all this, there's a lot of research that you have to collect. And I'm sure that it could take endless amount of time. You could always go into it deeper and deeper. How do you know when you've collected enough information, especially if it derails and goes into a different direction than where you originally thought? How do you know when you've had enough?
I think you just have to trust that, something will be done when it's done, but you also have to make a choice to be like, okay, I'm done with this. Because if you don't make that choice, you could keep working and reworking something to death. And, I think the difference between documentary and fiction is, in documentary, you don't always find the story when you're filming. You find the story in the edit, and you find it throughout the process. In fiction, you have a story that's written, and you take it and you shoot it, and like you really make 3 films. You have one film is the film that you've written, you have the film that you shoot, and then you have the film that you edited. In documentary, I feel like it's the film that you've conceptualized, it's the film that you think you're going to make, and then you don't end up making that. And then it's like, okay, I guess I'll just figure out what I'm going to do. And then it's the film and the edit that comes out, right? The story that comes out of the edit, because you could go into the edit being like, yeah, I think I have the footage to like make this film. And as you're watching stuff, you might be like, oh, this might be an interesting thing. This might be an interesting walk to take. And you go down these rabbit holes, and you just let the footage kind of guide you on the journey, and what people are, what your protagonists are kind of communicating to you too. I hope that answered your question.
What is the community's reaction to the film? Are they excited about it? Were they skeptical at first at all?
I think that will be hard to say. It's hard to say, and I won't know until it's done, and then we'll find out.
Oh, when they see themselves on screen.
Yeah, I've sent like, trailer and little clips and little scenes. So I think, people have enjoyed watching that, but it's, it's about what happens when it comes together. And so we'll see.
Well, what happened at the beginning? How'd you get them on board?
We just kind of started filming. We really had a lot of conversations about, what we want this to be. I think it was important that, I think it was important that it wasn't just this kind of fluff piece that's like going to show up on the news. And I was like, I don't even know how to make those. Like,
Well, Vice
we'll
did something like that did end up on the news.
Yeah. Which one is that? Which one was that?
It was another one that was I remember, I forget what year it was, but I remember it coming out about hijra community in Pakistan. Well, it said that in parentheses, but it's a trans. And yeah, I had a lot of friends sharing it with me and said, yo, like this is a huge thing and whatever. I don't remember the specific title.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think there's there's been some other work. So it's a topic that's been, I think, covered a decent amount. And so I think the goal is just to make something that does it a little differently.
I think
That's all you can hope for.
we
Yeah.
were one time, Frost and I and some of our friends, we were in the basement and we were just scrolling through Netflix and we actually saw a documentary that was called How Gay is Pakistan.
Hmm.
Um,
Oh, yeah.
and it was about like
remember
the
that.
trans community and the like LGBT community in Pakistan. But I think that was
It was mostly about like how hidden it
Yeah.
is, and it was somebody from here that went over and was trying to figure out like you know, what the hidden parts of, like how you were saying, as a country, yeah, you're right. A lot of people don't know who we are or hide these things, and I think it helps like letting even Pakistanis know that like this community has been here and is here for a while.
Even if it is hidden.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask you,
Yeah.
similar to what Shamir was saying, what do you do? Because you have other films that deal with other people, other sensitive topics. What happens with these people and your relationship with them after you're done the film?
Mm-hmm. Do you have an example of a film you're talking about?
So
So I
with
can
like Love and
address
Law,
that
for example, which we can talk about in a minute, it deals with these Japanese gay couple, is it?
Mm-hmm.
So you meet them, you know, you've met this trans community.
But
I don't-
like an intimate bond, I guess, in a way.
The
with
girl
them.
who went through some sort of a traumatic experience, who you had a documentary about. I'm not sure what the name was of that one. How the Air Feels. Yeah, what happens with these do you continue that, or do you kind of like wrap it up in your head as like that was a part of my life and now you move on?
Yeah. So of Love and Law, I was the associate producer. I came on board close to the end of the film. I met the director at this documentary lab that she participated in. Her name is Hikaru Toda. She's based in Japan. She's incredible, amazing. And then the producing team was like in London and Paris. So Elham is the producer. She's based in London. She's a badass and incredible, amazing producer, super awesome. If you guys want to follow her on Instagram, and she's always posting really thoughtful and thought-provoking things on there. But yeah, I had gotten involved close to when they were in the edit as an associate producer, and my responsibility was actually just like helping hopefully make some connections with people in the US and like really gear up for this big Kickstarter campaign that we had done. So I actually didn't meet the lawyers in person or anything, and didn't really, I would say didn't really correspond with them, but that story was so important, and it really, I was connected to it. And so I was really excited to work on that project, but that was mostly working
So
with,
you weren't as hands-on with actually working
yeah,
with...
I was like working with the creative team for like helping with fundraising and things like
Got
that.
it.
Yeah.
Okay, so then in this case, I guess you don't know yet what will happen with that connection.
Yeah, I don't know yet. Yeah.
Do you have any hopes or like anything that you're kind of wanting to do afterwards?
You know, I just want the opportunity to be able to finish the film. I think that's sort of my goal right now. And I'm open to that goal not happening in the next year, you know, because I think sometimes these projects take time. So I've been just focusing on other projects and, you know, trying to get those off the ground and just letting this sort of simmer and like wait and see what goes on, but still being, you know, still thinking about it, still looking at footage and things like that. With How the Air Feels, I am the subject of that film. So that was my relationship to myself. Yeah. And I think for that project, there's a helicopter outside. Hold on.
It's okay. We
I
can't
feel
really
like
hear
you
it.
guys will. Okay. But I think it might be in the stuff that I'm recording.
Okay.
Yeah. Just so you guys have the option. They might not go away. But for that project, I think it was, you know, it was more about sharing something that is taboo in our communities and shedding light on that, and hopefully in my process of sharing my story and someone watching it, maybe they can connect to it and they can find some sense of healing or feel empowered to share their own story or just feel seen. Because that's something that's really important to me. I think in our work is especially in my work as a woman, Pakistani Muslim woman, that like, I create things that challenge the views that we hold in terms of, the space that women should occupy in the world. And being able to talk about tough issues without feeling like there's going to be backlash, without feeling like, oh, the community is going to ostracize me because I said this out loud and I'm going to be like totally banished. And I think my point of view on that is like, who gives a fuck if they ostracize me? Like, that's not my problem. That's their problem.
Is that something you run into?
And I haven't run into that, thankfully, but I think that is, but I think that's a fear that a lot of the older generation, or probably parents, log kya kahenge and all that stuff that happens. I think there is a lot of fear. There's a lot of shame in our community around certain things. Just being yourself can feel shameful. Mm-hmm. And how do we break those cycles? How do we just like talk about that stuff so people feel less alone? I think is really important.
How do you pick all of these stories that you decide to either work on yourself or help out with? Like, why do you do what you do, basically?
I like working on things that have some like that resonate with me. I think with the documentary, it's stories that I care about. It's filmmakers who I want to help and who I care about. And with like fiction stuff, it's like a story that I want to see out in the world. So if I'm directing something, I think, or writing something, I think I like to write things that I want to see out there, that I think are trying to say something. If I'm producing a project, it's that I care about the director's vision. And I love the story and I want to do what I can to help get it out into the world by giving my time and my energy. And, because when you produce something, it's also it's like a very emotional process because you're really in it with the director and the rest of the team. And you give a lot of yourself. So I think it's important to pick things that you really care about because you're going to be in it for the long haul, whether it's a short or it's a feature film. I mean, a feature is like even bigger, but yeah.
When you're getting so emotionally involved, how do you keep that from affecting you personally?
Boundaries, and I think it's practice. I think you have to know the battles that you have to pick your battles. What hill do you want to die on? What fight do you want to fight? Like, I think just thinking about what's going to benefit the film at the end of the day, I really like to think about that. Like, if there's an issue that arises on set or something like that, really thinking through, okay, what's the best course of action that can ensure that we get what we need to make this the best film possible? And just thinking about that instead of focusing on, well, I feel like this and like someone's just wronged me. But I think all of that is like practice. It takes time. You're not going to get it right the first time.
I feel like sometimes when we're in a lot of heavy environments, and I feel like maybe like counselors and therapists feel this way, but when we even surround ourselves around a lot of sadness and things, people find coping mechanisms to deal with it outside of that. Do you have anything that you do to make sure that you don't let it affect you personally?
Yeah, I'm so glad you brought this up because there's an article. I'll track it down. I'll send it to you guys. But someone had written this article about sort of the trauma of documentary filmmaking for filmmakers, especially filmmakers that are working in these like conflict zones and they're having to go and film really difficult things and needing to just push through it and tell themselves like, it's okay, this is going to be over in 2 weeks and then I'll be fine. And it's like, but you're not fine.
Right.
You know, because that trauma sits in you, it sits in your body, and it'll manifest in some other crazy way down the line because that happens, especially as you get older.
That's
And
trauma.
I think, you know, it's an ongoing process. I feel like for me, it means, you know, finding ways to ground myself and center myself. And that might mean working out. That might mean I'm going to sit on the couch and veg out and watch like something on Hulu or Netflix. And I'm not going to give a shit that I'm not being productive.
Wait, on that note,
Something I was doing. Yeah.
don't you ever like so we like make videos and stuff, but anytime I watch like a movie or something, I say like, oh, it's not productive, but I still think about like the filmmaking aspect of it. And I'm always thinking like, how can I implement this in my videos or films or something? Does that happen to you when you watch like movies or something?
Oh yeah, totally. Yeah, it's almost a curse because you're like, God, why can't I just like sit and enjoy this? You know, you're like thinking about the acting, you're thinking about like the cinematography and the direction and all this stuff, and you're like, do I like the story? Do I not? Like, you just, it's sort of like insanity in some way, right? You're just like, wow, like all I can think about is film, and that's why I think it's really important to have something outside of
Creative
that
stuff.
you enjoy. Yes, have something like whether it's reading books or going on a bike ride or like maybe you love knitting, like having something outside of film when film is your whole career or filmmaking is your whole career, that there's something else outside that you enjoy too, because that's an avenue for you to de-stress and, you know, get out of your head all the time. Yeah.
You know, I think you mentioned the people that make these documentaries that are, you know, really traumatic just to even look at, but then to be recording and be on set and directing and whatever else. I think you should make a film about people that make those films.
Oh my God. Yeah. If someone wants to,
Super
someone
meta.
wants to finance that, I'm down. No, it's true. And it's something that's not talked about. You know, there's
Yeah,
a lot
we
of
don't think
burnout
about
in
it.
the industry.
Yeah, sorry, go ahead. I was just saying we don't think about it.
No, I was just going to say, yeah, there's a lot of burnout in the industry and it's something that needs to be talked about. You know, we have to stop glorifying like working 24/7. It's like, that's not a way to live, you know? And if that's what people need to do to like be successful, that's kind of ridiculous.
Yeah. So you were saying this earlier too, but you had this on your website. You were saying, I have a distinct memory of being called a Maimunda, which roughly translates to girl boy, by my mother and her friends. Why does that stick out to you particularly as like such a strong memory?
You know, I think this is something I want to explore in my work as well, because I think there's something to that that's less about being a tomboy and more about sort of posturing maleness to feel powerful in society, right? We operate and live within these like patriarchal systems. And I'm sorry, I don't want to sound too, I don't want to sound too academic, but I think
No, do your thing.
I also had an older brother, so I looked up to him. And so, you know, I got his hand-me-downs. I was also super sporty. I played soccer forever and ran track. And but I think subconsciously there was probably something else at work there where it's like, oh, if I dress like this and I behave like this, then will be heard and someone is going to give me the attention that I'm looking for and the power that I'm looking for.
And that's when you're
And
being more masculine or more feminine?
more masculine.
And who do you say
And
that would be giving you the like positive attention when you're
I think society, right? I think society. I think because you feel like as a girl or a woman that you're really only being seen in one way, and that's what you look like, and that's how you dress. And I think I had a complete rejection of that because I didn't want to be seen that way. You know, I didn't want to dress up in cute clothes and then be called cute. And because it's like, that's not really about me. That's about like what you think I am. And that's what I look like. Whereas like, if you're a guy, you can walk into a room and someone is just going to give you respect literally because you're a guy.
I think it's
and
funny
no other
that
reason.
in both of these cultures has two completely different things. Like the more masculine feel here and being referred to that way might give us more power. Whereas I, similar to you, my parents say like you should have been born a boy because of the way that I act. They're like, you act so non-feminine, you should have been born a boy, or like you are so doing so many things, whatever. And it's like a negative connotation. So the fact that we have the dual identities plus those two things meaning two different things in these two different cultures, I think that's also probably where all our confusion comes in too.
Yeah. And how did you deal with that growing up?
I mean, personally, for me,
that manifested. Yeah.
I think I kind of read it between the lines, right? So when they say like you should have been born a boy, what are they really saying? They're saying like you do too much, you know, like you're not as like, you know, sweet, like, you know, what is the attributes that related to a woman? But for a man, it's like you want to provide, you want to be doing the most, you're always out the house, you're always doing something. And that's what's attributed to a boy. And because of that, I looked at it as a positive, even though most people might look at it as a negative. So dealing with that was more so me just accepting the fact that in their minds, I'm never going to be the perfect feminine daughter that they want. However, I'm okay with that because that's not what I want to be.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
My parents would say this to my parents actually call my sister Mai, not the Munda part, but
yeah,
they just think that she is very like independent and tomboyish, but the reason is because in Pakistan often, and my family still says this, if someone's having a kid, it'd be like Allah kare ke beta de, which means you know, may God bless you with a boy. And then I think when my sister was growing up, she did things very sort of independently, and yeah, like yourself, she was very sporty and excelled in academics and all these things. And you know, it's like they're like, my dad, he'll be like proud of the fact that she's boyish, because maybe I'm trying to make sense of it through their eyes too,
Right.
because of how they grew up. And I think that they're trying to say that with women, the expectation is like you raise them to get married.
Right. You raise them to be good wives.
Yeah.
Which is, honestly, it's all about your parents' perception too, right? So the fact that your parents look at it as a way of like, oh, she's so independent, this and that. Some parents look at it as an amazing thing. Some parents are like, you're too independent for your own good.
Right.
So it's all about the connotation that our parents put on it as well, which is how it affects us, I feel.
It seems like their language. Like that's it. Like they're not really trying to say that, but at the same time.
Oh, you're saying like how people have a different way of expressing like their love.
That's what I think. But
Well, it's also about how they put it off to others as well, right? Because then when they are going off to others, they're like, you know, sometimes the conversation will consist of, yeah, she never cooks for the house, but it's never a conversation of, oh yeah, she's doing X, Y, Z out the house. She was doing this job at this age, whatever. So it's, again, I think it matters about what your parents value and then how you value yourself and how well those two things align.
How were your parents with it?
Yeah. I think they've gotten really good. You know, I feel supported by my parents, of course. Like any parent, you butt heads and you're like, you get into arguments, but I think they have been very supportive of my career. But I would say, and who's Shamir, right? What Shamir was saying, it's like, your parents think that they're saying something that's encouraging, but like you're reading it as like not encouraging because you're like, but you didn't say that in an encouraging way. And actually the words that came out of your mouth were not encouraging. And I think we have a lot of those types of conversations where you're constantly negotiating like, okay, yeah, but I know you said you were happy, but you said it in this other way that had all this other stuff attached to it. So, but I give them a lot of credit. I think it's, if I were an immigrant parent and, you're navigating this world that's like not created for you, and you're raising children in this world that like, you just want to protect them and you want to do all these things for them, that you're not going to get it right. And so I think I'm grateful that my parents have an openness at least to like have conversations and hear me out. And like, they've been really great about that. But it's been a process,
We're thankful for your parents too, because it's allowed your work to be out there, and we're really glad that your work is out there and everyone should definitely go check it out. So if you would like to plug all of that, of what's upcoming, where people can find all of your stuff right now, and what they can look forward to, please share.
Yeah. So I have a short documentary premiering at the Oxford Film Festival in Mississippi, actually this weekend, but that's in person. But my film is going to be online for a week, April 1st to the 6th, I believe, in Mississippi. And then it's traveling to the Ashland. It's called There Was Nobody Here We Knew. It's a short documentary starring my Pakistani immigrant parents as they contemplate alien life.
Oh, this is the UFO one.
During lockdown, yeah.
Amazing.
I can't wait to watch that.
And so it'll be at Oxford. I'll send you guys the link. It'll be at Oxford, then it's going to the Ashland Film Festival, and then it's going to be at another festival local to y'all, but it's all going to be virtual, which I can't say just yet, but it'll be there as well in May. And
Noble Half is still in the works. We don't have any dates or anything for that.
I wish we had dates, but that film is, it's a long-term project, so we'll see what happens. It's still ongoing. Are you still
doing the Kickstarter, or is that done? Is there any way people can support you?
The Kickstarter is done. We're just applying for grants, and we're going through the footage and seeing if we can make something, maybe that's a little bit shorter out of what we have. So let's see.
Okay.
Let's see.
Well, Instagram or anything where people can keep up with you?
I deactivated Instagram a couple months ago, and I don't know.
I'm trying to help you out here.
Have any plans to be back? What?
I said I'm trying to help you out here.
I know. Do you guys have Twitter?
Yes. Shout out your Twitter. We'll link it below if people want to keep up with you.
Okay. K Malik Twit.
All right. Will
is my Twitter, and I'm on Facebook, but I'm not on Instagram. I feel like I should be, but I can't do it. I can't do it right now.
That's all good. Is that like a weird thing?
Yeah, I don't know.
What is it? Twit?
Isn't that like something you say to somebody who's like an idiot? No.
That's twat.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's right.
No, but twit is also one other.
No.
Oh, okay. You guys.
Oh, twit.
Is it?
Yeah, that's been my Twitter handle. It's just twit because it's like Twitter.
Oh.
I cannot.
When you said it, I was like, is that
a silly or foolish person?
Okay, yeah. That's why Amber was hey. I mean, if it's...
You know what? That's me, I guess.
She said short for Twitter. The innocence. Okay, well, Khaula, again, thank you for being here.
Why didn't you make it tweet? But okay, I'm sorry.
Before...
Okay, well, I am taking suggestions on a new Twitter handle. So if you guys come up with any ideas, let me know.
I mean, your name is dope, like, as is.
What is the title for director Khaula Malik?
Yes.
That should be your Twitter name.
Okay.
Before you leave, though, this is Strange Flavor, so we have a very important question we ask all of our guests at the end. So, Shamir, you want to take that away?
If you could describe yourself in any flavor, what would it be and why?
Oh. Oh my God.
See, look at our microphones, all these different flavors.
Mm-hmm.
We knitted them ourselves.
Oh, I can't even see. Do you guys have caps on the microphones?
Yeah, I knitted
These
them.
are the ones. The pink, the
Oh,
yellow,
that's
the
really cute.
green.
What? So before I answer that, what flavor are you guys?
We'll tell you
What's your flavor?
afterwards.
Yeah, what's
These
that?
are these are pretty close to our flavors.
These are all pretty much
The-
our flavors.
The things, the colors of the pop filters that we picked. It can be anything.
So this is a tough question, but I would say saffron pistachio and chocolate brownie
Okay.
mixed
Whoa.
together.
Okay.
Okay, explain
Why?
yourself. Why is that you?
So there's an amazing ice cream shop in LA called Mashti Malone. It's like an Iranian ice cream shop. It's so good. And the two flavors I always pair together are saffron pistachio and chocolate brownie. I love chocolate. I love brownies. I just love the taste of chocolate. And I like the twist of like the saffron and the pistachio, because that gives you like a little bit of like that Persian and, our part of the world vibe. So I like that. I like the blending of things. So
The confusion that is Pakistan and that is being Pakistani.
Yeah.
Cute.
the kind of inherent, what's the word? Fractured identity that we have that you just learn to live with.
We're still pretty
And
new
celebrate.
people if you think about it. Like
Yeah.
Yeah.
the country is not that old, and I think we got some work to do.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
for sure.
But yeah, it's a interesting and crazy place, and we're interesting and crazy people.
Facts.
Here's to the journey, and here's to you.
Oh.
Here's to you guys. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you, Khaula, and thank you everybody for listening to another episode of Strange Flavors. It's been another week.
Another flavor.
A little less stranger.
We'll talk to you next time.
Take me to a